For the third time in the last 6 years, the Dogs and the Tide will meet in the SEC championship game. Alabama, they have to win this game if they even want a chance at the college football playoff. But Georgia, they may be in regardless of what happens. But a win for them definitely ensures they will be the number one team in the playoff for the second year in a row. So, will we have another instant classic in Atlanta? That's what we're here to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today, kicking off our Power 5 Conference Championship predictions with the SEC Championship game. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks and especially our holiday special, where we are offering you every single championship pick against the spread, every college football bowl game against the spread, and every NFL playoff pick against the spread. So all of those picks for just $34.99. No other site is offering those picks for that low of a price, and no other site can guarantee that we'll walk away with a winning record against the spread in all of those games, as we've hit over 60% of our bets this year and over 60% of our bets against the spread in each of the last 5 postseasons. So if you want guaranteed winnings and you want one of the best deals in the country, go sign up and become a member of our GE Nation today. Again, the link down in the description below. So let's take a look at this game, guys. Alabama and Georgia, they don't meet very often in the regular season, obviously, due to that cross-division deal, but they have become quite the rivals over the recent years. Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban, multiple SEC championship meetings, 2 national championship meetings. Alabama winning 1, Georgia winning the last one back in 2022. And that's the thing, right? Alabama, we said for the third time in the last 60 years, the Dogs and the Tide are meeting each other. Alabama's won every single one of those SEC championship meetings. But last time they met, Georgia ended up getting their revenge in the national championship, winning the 2022 national championship. So, what's going to happen this year? Take a look at the offense, right? We'll start with Georgia. This is a very good, and I dare I say elite offense from the Bulldogs, right? This is one that's averaging over 500 yards per game. They're averaging over 320 passing yards per game, and Carson Beck looks like a veteran, not a first-year starter. He's thrown for over 3,400 yards and 22 touchdowns on the year. The running game, though, can be equally as dangerous for Georgia, and that's what you'd expect from the Bulldogs. They had 262 yards rushing last week against Georgia Tech. Kendall Milton, Daijun Edwards, both have been phenomenal this season. Both have rushed for over 600 yards. The offensive line, very, very good. What else would you expect? They've only allowed 10 sacks on the year. They're opening up running lanes for their running backs. They're giving Carson Beck tons of time and protection to deliver each and every game. This offense has been held to under 30 points just twice this year. Once against South Carolina, once against Auburn. I know, interesting that the two maybe weaker teams they've played held them to under 30, whereas they were killing teams like Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. These are also the offense guys that likes to spread it out. There are 10 players on this Georgia team that have at least 100 reception yards. Of course, Brock Bowers leading the way. He's going to play a major role, not just in this game, but in Georgia's quest to reach a third straight and win a third straight national title. Look at Alabama. Their offense, they've seemed to figure things out as the year's gone on, right? That's kind of what it's been like. They started off the year a little bit shaky. Jalen Milroe didn't look all that great. Nick Saban tried that weird experiment against USF, tried Ty Simpson, tried Tyler Buckner, went right back to Jalen Milroe. He's been the starter ever since. I thought he's played relatively well. This is a guy that has just delivered when called upon, and I think the best example of that was last week against Auburn. 4th and goal from the 31-yard line. Jalen Milroe delivers with a beautiful strike in the corner of the end zone to Isaiah Bond to keep Alabama's playoff hopes alive and to make this SEC championship still mean something. Because if Alabama had lost, really wouldn't mean anything other than bragging rights. This wouldn't be a potential playoff play-in game for the Crimson Tide. This is a interesting concept, though, for Georgia, because this is the first true dual-threat quarterback that the Bulldogs have seen. Jalen Milroe is a guy that was phenomenal against Auburn in the past, but also had 107 rushing yards. And Georgia really hasn't seen a dual-threat quarterback like Jalen Milroe all year long. I don't count Brady Cook as true dual-threat. I don't count Jackson Dart as one. I don't trust Haynes King as one. This is the first, or maybe the best, if you want to classify them as that, dual-threat quarterback that Georgia has seen. The Crimson Tide have 9 players with at least 100 reception yards, led by a guy in Jermaine Burton. Isaiah Bond's been phenomenal. But the passing attack has not been nearly as good as Georgia's, and it has not been nearly as good as maybe the rushing attack for Alabama. If Alabama wants to win this game in Atlanta, if they want to beat Georgia, they're going to need a good and clean day from Jalen Milroe. He's going to have to pretty much win this game by himself. That means not turning the ball over, delivering on his throws, and playing a major role in the rushing game, one that's averaging over 176 rushing yards per game. Georgia, you look at the defense, right? In years past, you go, well, that's great, Alabama, but you're not rushing against us because no one runs against the Dogs, right? Well, lately, that hasn't been the case. That hasn't been the case. The Bulldogs guys have been a little bit susceptible to the run, more so than I'm sure Kirby Smart would like. They just allowed 205 rushing yards to Georgia Tech in a game that was way closer than anyone thought it would be, only winning by 8 as 24-point favorites. They're only allowing 110 rushing yards per game, still a top 30 rushing defense, but look, 205 rushing yards to Georgia Tech. They allowed a 75-yard rushing touchdown the opening play to Tennessee, allowed 130 total rushing yards in that game. They allowed 179 rushing yards to Ole Miss. They allowed 151 rushing yards to Missouri. In the last 4 games, Georgia's defense has allowed 665 rushing yards. In the last 4 games, it's an average of 166.3 rushing yards per game, compared to just 690 passing yards, which is 172.5 passing yards per game. So this rushing defense has been susceptible. And while Georgia, I know, has been winning those games, and I know they blew out Ole Miss, I know they blew out Tennessee, it's still a concern now facing an Alabama team that can definitely exploit that and now has a quarterback that Georgia has to account for and not just pure running backs. That's a concern. So Georgia defensively, they're still good. They're still a well-oiled machine, but the running defense is a concern. And if they want to win this game, and they maybe want to win it convincingly, they've got to contain Jalen Milroe. You've got to find a way to bottle up the run and contain him to the pocket. Don't allow him to escape, to extend plays, to pick up first downs with his legs. You've got to contain him, and you've got to force him to throw against a secondary that, again, has been pretty phenomenal all year long, has forced 12 interceptions this year, and has been a top 20 passing defense all season long. That's what Georgia has to do. Alabama defensively maybe has a bit of a tougher task because, like we said, Georgia, one of the best offenses in the country. You take away the running game, Carson Beck can deliver. You take away Carson Beck, the running game can deliver. But the Crimson Tide have been a top 20 defense for the majority of the year. They're allowing just 310 yards per game. They rank top 20 against the pass, allowing just 190 passing yards per game. They held Auburn last week to just 93 passing yards, but then conversely gave up over 242 on the ground. So it's a concern there, right? Yeah, the secondary is pretty good. Auburn's passing attack's been garbage all year, so don't put too much stock into that. But that is a positive, right? They still didn't allow Peyton Thorne or any other quarterback this year really to go out there and torch them. They've allowed over 250 passing yards just 3 times this year. Texas, Tennessee, LSU. Alabama 2-1 in those games. Big-time win over Tennessee, big-time win over LSU, both those coming by double digits. The Crimson Tide's pass rush, phenomenal. 36 sacks this year. The secondary, pretty solid. 12 interceptions forced this year. So here's the question now. Carson Beck, he's won at Tennessee. All the big games, though, outside of that have been at home for him. Ole Miss was at home. Missouri was at home. Kentucky early in the year was at home. Kentucky really not all that good. But the big top 25 ranked games, all of those except for the Tennessee game, have been at home for Carson Beck. Now he's in Atlanta, right in Georgia's backyard, but in the biggest game, arguably, of his career so far, against an Alabama defense that has everything in the world to play for. If Alabama can create pressure on Carson Beck and force him into a handful of mistakes, they've got an opportunity to win this game. This is arguably the best defense that Georgia has seen all year long. It really is. Arguably the best defense that Georgia has seen all year long. And again, you never want to doubt Nick Saban in a game like this. He'll have his team ready to go, trying to slow down this Georgia offense. But ultimately, guys, what's going to happen? Battle in Atlanta, major playoff stakes on the line. And you cannot but wonder, Alabama wins, can they get into the college football playoffs? Because if Texas wins the Big 12, Texas was still on the head-to-head. Obviously, there's a possibility where no one, maybe outside of Georgia, if Bama wins, loses ahead of them. Michigan's not going to lose to Iowa. Maybe Florida State beats Louisville, and the winner of the Pac-12, whether it's Washington or Oregon, gets in. So even a win for Alabama might not be enough to get them into the Final Four. But, man, they'd love to have that chance. They'd love to sit there and make their case. But ultimately, guys, I don't think they're going to have a case. I don't think they're going to get a chance to make their case. Because I don't think Alabama can go into Atlanta against this Georgia team that for the majority of the year has been the number 1 team in the country and play a full, clean game. I expect Jalen Milroe to make a handful of mistakes. Keep in mind, he nearly made a very costly one at the end of that Auburn game, walking way past the line of scrimmage, a handful of times in that game, I should add, before he delivered that 4th and goal from the 31 strike that kept Alabama alive. Alabama's been penalized 72 times this year for 604 yards, including 8 penalties for 72 yards against Auburn. So you factor in a handful of mistakes, you factor in penalties. I just don't think Alabama can play a dang near perfect game to take down the Bulldogs. It's funny. Years ago, I used to say, I can't pick Georgia to beat Alabama until I see it. Right now, I'm not picking Alabama to beat Georgia until I see it. Yes, they've won each of the 3 previous national championship games. But since that national championship win over Alabama for Georgia back at the beginning of 2022, these two teams have been in kind of different directions here. Give me Georgia to win a close game. It's going to be close, but give me Georgia to win the SEC championship to ensure they're the 1 seed in the college football playoff and to extend their winning streak to 30. The Bulldogs beat Alabama in Alabama's playoff hopes, march into the college football playoff looking to get their 3rd straight national title as the Crimson Tide once again fall just short of that coveted Final Four. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Georgia to win the SEC championship. Leave your thoughts and comments down below. Let's get ready for another massive college football Saturday. But once again, as always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks and that holiday special. The link directly below. Do not miss out on those picks, guys. Some of the best picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the country. We want you to sign up and join our team today. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.